Hello everyone, coming to you from the Pittsburgh office of Sangoma, I'm Jed Blazanin, and today I'm bringing you another Apidaze demo. If you're not already familiar with it, Apidaze is our programmable telco solution that allows you to control every step of your calls and message flows directly with your own webhooks. In our last demo, I introduced you to Vi, my personal assistant. If someone calls me, Vi will try to ring my cell and soft phones. If I'm not available, Vi will put the person on hold while waiting for me to take the next action with the call. Vi filters my calls, can sit on hold in place of me, and do a lot of other complex call flows. In that demo, I showed you that Vi is a single Node.js Express app. We dove into some of the code base to see the incoming messages and matching responses, but watching console logs to see what's happening on a call can be such an eyesore. So today, I'm previewing Apidaze directly in a drag and drop interface. We've created Apidaze modules for two of the best drag and drop interfaces, Node-RED and Node-Mation. I'm not going to go over how these interfaces used by themselves. Instead, I want to show you what our modules bring to these interfaces to make Apidaze more accessible to you. Our module includes all the nodes you'll need to get your app connected with Apidaze and processing your calls as you see them. For today's demo, we're going to recreate Vi using our nodes in Node-Mation, also known as N8N. The first thing any Apidaze app will need to work is the Apidaze webhook trigger. This node exposes the listeners needed for Apidaze to send any requests for your app. First, we decide to configure a path. This will be the path in the URL for Apidaze request to send your application. We can then see the production and test URLs that will be ready to receive Apidaze requests. Next, we configure this node with your API key and your API secret. Once you have an Apidaze account, you will have access to your primary key and secret, as well as the ability to purchase numbers and create more applications in your account. Now that we've exposed the listeners needed for Apidaze to send any requests to your app, I'm going to plan what I want this app to do. Apidaze requests can be for voice or RTC calls, SMS or MMS messages, live transcriptions, call recordings, and CDRs. To recreate Vi, I know we'll be handling voice calls, SMS messages, and live transcription results. So first, I'm going to add an Apidaze processor node for each of the request types I plan to handle. I'll add a call processor for handling voice calls. This processor allows different outputs depending if the call is new, in progress, or hung up. Next, I'm going to add a message processor. A message processor will allow us to trap certain keywords and remove or alter the message in accordance with what keywords we matched. Lastly, I'm going to add a transcription processor. A transcription processor will be available to make sure that the webhook handles transcriptions and only passes through that call flow as we designate. A couple of things I can quickly do is understand that if Vi wants to send any transcriptions to me as text messages. So I'll connect this node with our API and I'll have it send an SMS. I can enter the to, from, and the message to be sent, or using N8N's expressions, grab a piece of data from somewhere else in the call flow to use for these values. Similarly, when I get text messages in, I know that I want to hit the Apidaze API to trigger a call to transfer. When a call transfers, it simply goes back and asks the script what is the next step to be done. Again, for the call UUID to transfer, I can either enter it statically or I can use N8N expressions to grab that from somewhere else in the workflow. Lastly, we're on to our call processor. Anytime that we have an Apidaze call processor, we're going to want to make sure that an Apidaze XML response is available at the end. This node will actually guarantee that the structure of the data going back to Apidaze will be handled to make your call process as you desire. In the middle here, for a new call, I'm going to choose to handle Apidaze XML. And I'm going to add a case, instead of using any of the call properties, to always match and always answer the call, followed by speaking what we'll hear when we test that. You can see that we also can connect for in-progress calls and hung-up calls. So to really get into what Vi is doing now, I'm going to bring up the current running version of Vi within N8N. You'll notice here that there's a couple more nodes in the mix, and everything from the call processor ends with the XML response. I've also configured each of these nodes with some complex conditionals to determine data to send and data to persist in the back end for evaluating at a later step point. You can see that the message processor is still just transferring the call from a text, and the transcription processor is sending the call transcription to a text. But to see what really happens, let's actually call Vi, watch the executions. The first execution will be the call coming in, hitting the new call, answering as Vi is told to do so, and responding to then try to call my cell phone.
Please wait while I find Jed.
We hereby answered the call, and then is trying to contact me. And since I didn't answer the call,
Hi, I'm Vi.
we'll see
Jed's
that I receive
personal
a text
assistant.
message
He's currently
with
not
instructions
available.
on what I can
Please
do to
wait while
control
I
this
check
call
if he has
next.
time to chat.
I'll prepare the hashtag answer message as we look at the call flows that just happened. Since Vi is giving us this pleasant music to listen to for the time being, we can step back and see that the first thing that happened, as I mentioned, was the new call leg was reached, providing back the XML that we heard to please wait while I find Jed. The next execution came through, noticed that it was an in-progress call, and this one found that a custom string set by an expression was blank and is told to supply back this XML, which we can see from the response. This was the actual dialing of the soft phone and the cell phone. When an answer didn't come through, Vi handled the next thing to do, which is to check that and send a text explaining what we see on the other side. So now I'm going to text back answer, and Vi will engage the caller with a voice-to-text chat.
I checked with Jed and he would like to chat. Please talk through me like you're speaking to him. I may have a short delay getting messages between you two, but I'll do my best.
So here is the next call that came through, and we can jump in the line to find the text message that triggered the call to be transferred. At that point, after the call was transferred, we see that Vi determined that I would like to keep them in a live chat, and we heard Vi speak this information to us. You'll also note that we are recording this call with a transcription URL. So, you can see what the caller is saying because the transcriptions are available to send off as text messages. Again, we wait for the processing to come through, and we'll see that Vi transcribed what I said to deliver to my cell phone. Now that I've done that, what I text back to Vi will be spoken to the caller.
And what I text back to Vi will be spoken to the caller.
At that point, I'm going to hang up the call from the caller, and since I was engaged in a live chat, Vi is going to text me to let me know that they hung up the call. Now, when we walk through these last few executions, we will more easily see that a transcription occurred, and the transcription set some data and actually sent the SMS to my cell phone. We can then follow the next execution to see that it got a text back. That text then triggered the call with this UUID to be transferred back to find out what its next step is. When the call came back through, all that it had to do was speak what is actually delivered from the text. And finally, when the caller hung up, we see that the hang-up process was hit, determined that it was in a live chat, sent the text message, and finished up with the response to Apidaze. So this wraps up the demo of Apidaze nodes in NodeMation. Look for our node modules coming soon on Node Red and N8N. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something useful from this demo. I can't wait for you to start building your own apps in Apidaze. Until the next demo, please keep yourself safe and stay productive.